Hello everyone, we are here, and I don't need glasses anymore. Not really, I'm wearing contacts. I'm just excited about it, because now I have peripheral vision. Hopefully I'll stop running into things so much now. I think I got 3 concussions last month. It's a problem. It's a very big problem. But, I'm sure you all knew I was very excited about, last chapter that I dropped. I think most of you guys were too, because we're recording this one a little early because I've got some big plans for the weekend. But it seems like I got everybody left some really long reviews. But we're gonna open up with Silver's review for the chapter before last. Let's see. So Silver 4700 says, if I'm remembering correctly, yeah, this is the one where he's where he died, he came back, and he's kind of waking up and realizing the whole arm thing. So for Silver's thoughts on this matter was, wow, this chapter was honestly more intense for me than the actual attack. Gonna be honest, this was one of the closest attempts to get me to cry for some reason. Almost, but didn't. It worked, man. I don't think I was trying to get anyone to cry with that one. But, I mean, now I'm interested to see what he says about the most recent chapter. Let's see. As someone who knows little to nothing about medical practices, sometimes I kind of felt lost in the moment. Maybe that was just me, though. Really liked the moments you had with Hikari and his family, and then subsequently with him and Mina. Really nice. Yeah, like I mentioned before, a lot of the medical terminology I got from friends of mine who are in the medical field. So I tried to keep it to stuff that I felt could be understood with the context of the situation, but if you have any questions about that, message me and I'll explain them to you if I need to. Let's see. Hikari allegedly passes on. Guess I'm in heaven now. Wonder what the place is like. Looks toward the gates to see ads covering every square inch of the place with more looming inside. Hikari. Oh, come on, really? That's just disgusting. Activate ad blocker. Would you like to purchase ad blocker for $29.99? I'm gonna burn this sucker to the ground. Anyways, I wonder what's going to happen next. Maybe not in the next chapter, but the raid in the villain's hideout is going to happen soon. All Might. I am here to obliterate some villains and train young Midoriya, and I'm all out of Midoriya. Maybe a bit out of character, but just once, man. I mean, hey, I thought that worked. I thought it was funny. Not a lot else to say, only that I hope you enjoyed your vacation. Signing off, Silver. Thank you, dude. We did enjoy our vacation. My kids almost killed me, but that's okay.
Nothing different from being home there.
We just got to do it in Missouri.
Yes.
It's awesome. Yeah, thanks for your review, man. I'm very interested to... I don't think you got to the review for the latest chapter quite yet, but I'm really... If the one before almost made you cry, I can't wait to see what he makes of the most recent one. Speaking of which...
Yeah.
Treadley Tayo, I know he's been following my stuff for a while, but I think this is the first time he's actually left a review.
Cool. All right. What? What was that hit in the field scenario? I can't believe what I just read. You came back and all of a sudden this happened. I don't know what to say. First, from Mataras' story arc got me hooked. And now this, I'm so hyped for what's coming next for Kurai and his story arc. Keep up with the good quality, bro. You have no idea what a good story you just made and are still making.
Oh, thanks, dude.
God bless you, brother.
Oh, thanks, man. That's really nice of you to say.
Yeah.
Blessings in return.
All right.
Man, there are some really long...
Thank you, Treacle.
I think I'm supposed to read this last part here. But,
all right.
Let's see. All right, Joe Clone.
All right. Well, back under the covers again. Why does life always work against happiness? On the one hand, starting from Mina's perspective is a refreshing change. Kind of reminds me of those moments in video games when a short instance you control a supporting character. First to come to mind are Aerith FF7.
Final Fantasy 7.
Aerith and Final Fantasy 7 remake after the hand massage, and Maya Fey in Ace Attorney. Justice for All.
Not One for All?
For Hall while she was kidnapped in the killer's basement.
Sorry, dude, I have played neither of those games, but I do understand the...
What I thought of when you said that was the Spider-Man game, when you get to play
when you get to play as Miles or as MJ. And I haven't played the Miles Morales Spider-Man game yet because I don't have a PlayStation 5, but I'm gonna, eventually. I really want to play. The first Spider-Man game was so good!
So good. Alright. I love seeing that. However, Kurai hitting her across the room was painful. It could have been worse. It could have been purposeful, a la Hank Pym, Yellow Jacket, and the wife beater comics reference.
I don't know what that is.
That's
Wait, Hank Pym. I know that name, but I don't know who. I can't put a face to the name.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
You keep reading. I'm gonna Google.
All right. That brings me to the nightmare. I just have no words for how frightening it sounded. End of. Mina meeting Weiss was really sweet interaction.
Oh, he's the villain in Ant-Man, I think.
I remember him. Yeah, he's a bad dude.
Okay,
bad
alright,
dude.
cool.
Never thought we'd have a moment between those two. Weiss is definitely showing her humane sense here, and we love to see it.
Yeah, I thought, like, honestly, it was kind of one of the that bit in the chapter was kind of one of those things where I didn't plan it out in advance, but it made but like my fingers just kind of started doing their own thing, and I was like, oh no, wait, this makes sense. I'm like, it makes a lot of sense to insert this here, so I'm glad that you guys appreciated it.
Hey, the conversation with poor Blake. I'm really glad it went how it did. I fully expected Kurai to react similarly to how he did, and the little comedy of Mina holding him up was nice.
I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you. I don't know how to like. Is it bad that my character becomes predictable, or is it a good sign that they can kind of start to like they can predict?
I think it depends on the situation.
Like, okay, so no way, that's not the right way to put. So it's bad if the story gets repetitive and predictable, but if it's if you can know what to expect from a character, it's probably a good thing because that means that the readers have connected with the person and can understand him to a degree. Okay, cool.
I see that.
Okay, cool.
All right. The fight, though, holy cow, that was just as amazing as the anime version.
That's a top compliment, man, but I don't believe it. I can't, like, I hardly touched on the fight scene because I'm like, no, I can't do anything better here. But, I'll hear out the rest of what you got to say.
Hearing Kurai's perspective on the whole ordeal and how having Mina privy to at least a little bit of All For One's lore is definitely game-changing.
Yeah, it is.
I'm guessing this means All Might will have to tell her at some point. Excuse me, sorry. The secret leaks more than the original. I wonder who else will discover the truth. Plus, I would like to add that Akurui using K2SO's voice was so funny.
Is she talking about me?
Oh, I love it.
K2SO is one of our pastors in high school was basically was K2SO. Like
that's his personality for sure. Yeah, when we watched Rogue One, I was like, oh my gosh.
It's Steve.
Yeah.
It's Steve.
And then the best part was we got out of the movie theater and he immediately he wasn't even with us and he was at somewhere else and he tweeted that it was him. And
he's like, it was interesting seeing myself as a robot in the Star Wars Rogue One movie.
Yes.
Something to that effect. And we were just like, oh no, it really is him.
I was thinking that before I even saw the tweet.
Why does she get a blaster and I don't?
I love it. All right. What the shock was Kurai's dad doing in All For One's pocket? Why did he have to die? I can't! Mutters incoherent ramblings of the insanely gibberish.
Something like that.
You have problems.
You married me. That makes me your problem.
I know.
Okay, so I saw a little bit of this. So this is how. Okay, so this is supposed to be a conversation between Mario the plumber and Shadow the Hedgehog, as I understand it.
Okay.
So this is where he goes. Looks like it. I'm gonna take a closer look at this to see what broke him. Oh, that's... Hey, I wanna see ya. Nope, too dark for you, and I should know. Oh, come on, at the least of the first chapter. Slippery slope, Mario, I won't allow it. Now, while I close this, you take him back to bed. I'll see you the next time. Picks up Joe Clone by the arm, slowly dragging him away. That's ours, is it? I won't tell you to stop, and I encourage you to continue, but until the next chapter, just hope our friend here is tough enough to handle this level of narrative chaos. He'll see you next time.
That was funny.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate
like watering over here.
Are you okay?
I'm good.
You good to keep reading?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for your review, and thank you for playing into my hands emotionally. I love doing this, man. It's so much fun.
All right, Silly Kita. What? How? Why? I have so many questions. Why did I have to open my mouth and say that last chapter was a good place to be?
Yeah, man, why did you do that?
No,
why would you give me that opening?
I'm going to need surgery in order to help me remove my foot from my throat, and I didn't even know I could get it that stuck. Calm down.
No.
Okay, let me just find your center, Kira. Okay. I'm not good, but I can get through this. Start with Ashido's thoughts on the whole thing so far. I rescind my prior declarations that she should be, awarded Girlfriend of the Year. I now demand that she be made Girlfriend of the Decade.
He's a simp!
Sticking by Hikari's side after he tossed her across the room. Not his fault, I know, was so damn wholesome. I love it. Not the whole nightmare bit, that sounded beyond awful, but her just being there and loving on him was really sweet. Side note, I feel like it was a way more effective not to show us the nightmare through the narrative. Probably makes it easier for us to imagine the scenario as opposed to you just explaining it.
Yeah, I think there's... I mean, how do I put... Like, narrative-wise, you usually want to show, not tell. Like, you don't want to over-explain things. So, like, but in this instance, I felt it would be better to, like, just not show anything at all, which leaves it up more to your guys' imagination. Because you probably do a better job of imagining whatever nightmare he had better than I can tell it to you.
Well, yeah, because we're all scared of different things, and so our imagination is going to do better.
Yep.
All right. Hikari's mom is one scary lady. So, Ashido must really mean it that she's in for the long haul if she can hold her own with that woman. I can't tell if that's her just being protective of her son or if she's secretly rooting for the two of them herself. Time will tell.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of a bit of both.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes she just reminds me of your mom.
Well, I mean,
I'm just gonna be
probably.
real with
I mean,
you.
probably. I feel like I kind of based her character off of that a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Weiss being nice came sooner than expected, but was well placed. And I called it. They talked Blake out of leaving, at least temporarily, but I'll take it. And then again, back to the fluff between Hikari and Ashido. Seriously, for a chapter loaded with a lot of heavy topics, you worked in a surprising amount of good fluff. Him confiding that he doesn't want to be anything less than himself around her was cool to see. It seems like in teen romances, the people are always too touchy-feely or emotionally constipated sociopaths. I like that. And no in between. Even after more than
it's
a
like
year...
Sasuke and Sakura. There's just no in between with those two.
Even after more than a year of reading about these two, it's still a refreshing ship.
I'm glad you think so, dude.
Hikari bending the rules? Le gas. I'm surprised he let Deku and the others go, but I suppose I shouldn't be. He's got plenty to worry about besides trying to stop his friends from doing something stupid. Still, it was a good interaction between the rising symbols of peace, one that I feel will have an impact later on down the line. Now the fight between All Might and All for One was covered in a way that I did not expect in the slightest. I say that in the sense that I didn't really stop and consider how Hikari would feel if All Might suddenly wasn't around to protect him and the others anymore. But you clearly gave it a lot of thought, and it makes sense.
Well, yeah, I wanted Hikari to have a different take on the whole one for all for one against each other thing. Like, Deku is like, he idolizes All Might. He wants to do whatever he can to help him. Kurai's kind of got more, like, he's got more of an objective point of view on the whole thing, where he's just like, y'all are crazy. You're gonna ask a teenager to do that? I mean, practically he knows, like, okay, yeah, we have some of the only powers that could probably keep up with this guy, but oh my god, this is insane.
Yep.
Deku, why are you excited about this?
Of course he'd be upset at the thought of inheriting a war that he is in no way prepared for. At the same time, it was awesome to see Mina, seriously VIP of this arc, learning at least a piece of the truth and using it to help Hikari keep his head on straight instead of panicking. I'm glad that even he isn't ready.
Even if he isn't ready.
Oh, even if he isn't ready, Hikari is going to do the best to become the symbol that All Might and Ashido believe he can be. Now for the big reveal at the end. What the flip of frickin' flapjack was that? I like that.
Wait, let me try this. What the flip-flop frickin' flapjack was that?
That was pretty good. His dad sold out to All for One. Forget ripping the carpet out from under me. You took out the entire frickin' floor. There was nothing that could have told me this was coming. Usually you leave a clue of some kind to let us know about stuff like this. I went back and reread the entire story just to make sure. Wow. This time, no clues at all. I hope for an answer soon, but knowing your style, you're probably going to make us wait a hot minute to get them. You freaking sociopath. We can only take so much.
See, a sociopath would take no joy in tormenting you guys. I take so much joy in it.
Loved the chapter. Bring on the next one.
I'm glad you loved the chapter, man. But yeah, I kind of... That one was kind of a tough decision for me to make, because normally it is my style to like leave some clue or another that you can go back and find later, because I want there to be some value in rereading my stories, like going back and knowing things in advance. I feel like should make for a new experience when you go back and read it again. So I kind of decided to take a gamble on this one and just absolutely blindside everybody on that. I mean, I remember when I mentioned like the idea to you, and you were just like, "Excuse me."
What?
It's like, why would you do that? Because. No, I have a better reason than just because, I promise. But you're gonna have to wait a little bit to find out why he would do that.
Some investigating that's gonna have to happen.
Yeah, man.
First.
Yeah, man. Oh man, I'm glad everybody took that so well. Like, and by well I mean they didn't just quit on the story because they're like, what? No, you're just pulling things out of your ass. Because I was worried that there was going to be some measure of that, but it doesn't seem like anything like that so far. But
loved the chapter. Bring on the next one.
All right, we will bring on the next one. Just one more review to go.
Thanks, Silikita. Yeah, Light Hero Kaiser. Holy beep. Kurai dad was a spy for the
League of
Villains. Why? How? When?
There's a lot of that question going on today.
Great chapter mate. Can't wait for more. Keep up the evil but amazing work. Also, I can see Akurui basically making the Devil Breakers from the Devil May Cry 5 for Kurai, because that would be amazing and would work really well.
Devil Breakers from Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah.
Okay, let me look this up real quick.
Blade Hero Light signing out.
Devil Breakers. What's the name of the game? Devil
Breakers from Devil May Cry 5.
Okay, let's see. What is this? Let's see. Images.
Let's see.
Ooh.
Those are cool.
That is kind of cool. Let's see.
Wow.
I mean, that would be kind of cool, except for the fact that Kurai's arm got cut off a little bit higher up than that.
He's gonna need a little bit more prosthetic.
For image. I mean, you guys have seen the. I mean, you guys have access to the images on Instagram and on my DeviantArt. But just for a reference, right now, he got his arm cut off like right around here. So he's a little.
So it'll be a little.
It's a little bit
longer, but I mean, still,
the
concept is really cool.
The aesthetic is
looking.
really cool. Yeah.
Just saying.
No, I do like that. I do like that idea.
Cool.
We'll have to wait and see what he ends up with, because something to consider, guys, is that if he tried to, he's not going to be able to have like a normal prosthetic like Mr. Compress, the villain. He has a replacement arm, and he has no problems using it. The problem with Kurai's arm is that he needs to be able to use his quirk through it. Any kind of prosthetic that he would try to use would just blow up from his quirk. Like there's nothing on the market, for lack of a better term, that could hold up to his quirk. It's like he throws punches hard enough to keep on par with All Might, and there's a reason All Might never used any support gear.
Give him a vibranium arm.
Vibranium arms. That's what he needs. The Winter Soldier arm. That's what he needs. But well, I thank you guys for your reviews, and I was glad to hear you guys' thoughts on the whole shebang. But let's see what you guys have to say about the next chapter, and we'll be back here in a little bit. So, be right back.
I feel alive, I'm made of fire. No time to die, pushing my body. Day and night, I'll do what's right. No time to die, can't break my body. I'm taking the right time to figure out what's mine and make it my own. Can't break my body.
Not alone. It was raining as 3 teenage boys stared down at the stone slab that had their family name carved into it. The police force had already given the 21-gun salute in farewell of their former leader, and the funeral procession had moved on some time ago. Even their mother had gone to speak with their extended family members that had come to offer their condolences for the family's loss, leaving the trio of young men to say their farewells in private. All of them were dressed in sharp black suits with fresh haircuts, though one of them was confined to a wheelchair, and another of them with a shock of silver hair had an empty sleeve where his arm used to be. "This takes me back," said the last and skinniest of the 3, his voice subdued. "Never thought I'd be standing here again. Not for a long time, anyhow." The other 2 said nothing in response, simply letting the rain continue to soak into their already wet clothes. Shukin glanced at his cousins out of the corner of his eye before he asked, "Should I leave you guys alone? If you don't mind." Shukin nodded and walked past Kurai, patting him on the shoulder before he did the same to Akururi, murmuring, "Let me know if you guys want to talk." "Thanks." Akururi's synthetic voice replied, courtesy of a program that would speak anything that he typed into his wheelchair's tablet. With that, their cousin was gone, and the 2 of them were left completely alone in the graveyard reserved for officers that had fallen on the line of duty. Mina had been there with them earlier, but she had to go home in order to sort out some things about UA with her parents, so now it was just Kurai and Akururi. Neither of them moved for a very long time, unable to tear their gaze away from their father's resting place. The officers that came to tell Kurai about Hogush's death had informed the family that the man had been assisting in the evacuation of a partially collapsed building when the support structure had finally given way, crushing him and 36 civilians that had been unable to escape. Despite the fact that he had been in no way obligated to do manual labor alongside his men, their father had seen to saving as many people as he could through both his coordination with the police and heroes, as well as his own physical efforts. If the boys were being honest with themselves, it was hardly surprising that he would die like that, but it didn't make the fact hurt any less, especially with everything else that had happened to them in the last few weeks. "I don't get it," Kurai finally said, his voice hoarse from disuse. As Akururi turned in his chair to allow him to look more directly at his brother, the other boy continued on to ask, "Is there some unspoken law of the world that says that you and I aren't allowed to be happy? Is it wrong for us to hope for that?" "I don't know," Akururi replied, "but there's no going back for us now. With Dad and All Might both gone, things are about to get a lot worse around here. We need to do our part to keep the people safe that they fought so hard to protect." "How?" Kurai scoffed as he finally turned to look at his brother, his eyes red from the crying that he had been doing. "I'm down an arm, which crippled my ability to use my quirk in addition to my body, and you're halfway to being a vegetable. Not to mention that neither one of us is close to getting our careers off the ground. What are a couple of kids going to do for a world without All Might and Dad in it?" "All Might believes in you," the younger boy answered. Since he had heard David Shield's confirmation that the former number 1 hero was losing his power, he had been filled in on the necessary details by his brother and Midoriya, who had been with him at the time. Thus, he knew that the 2 of them were in line to be trained by the man in order to eventually take up his mantle. "We can continue to learn and grow. I may not have much time left, but you definitely have a long life ahead of you, and I know that Dad would expect you to make the most of it. After all, he didn't try to discourage you from attending UA, despite what happened, did he?" "No." "Then take that as a sign that you're still on the right path. If we both keep working hard and keep doing good, then maybe, someday, we'll be able to find that we are happy with what we have done. Besides," Akururi's mouth twitched slightly, as if he were trying to smile in spite of the situation, "you still have Ashido, and I've seen enough to know that she would do anything to make you happy if you just let her help you. Before Kurai could say anything to the contrary, his brother held up a hand before adding, "You have a bad habit of pushing people away when you're hurting and putting up a front of being okay. Don't do it this time. Let her in." "What about you?" Kurai sniffed as he wiped his eyes. "What are you going to do when the depression starts to kick in and I'm not around to talk to?" The day after he had been discharged from the hospital, his family had received a letter saying that UA was turning into a dorm school and that the teachers would be coming around soon in order to discuss the details in person. Kurai's mother had already told him that the decision was entirely up to him, as she did not wish to go against back on his father's final wish for him to continue on his chosen path, no matter her own feelings on the matter. It seemed clear to Kurai that she now wished for him to choose a safer path in life, but it was like Akururi said, with their father gone, it was up to the next generation to take up the standard as soon as possible. "Same thing I always do. I'll talk to Mom," Akururi replied in answer to his sibling's question. Ouch. In spite of themselves, the two of them shared a smile, glad that they were able to, even if it was just for a second, have an interaction like they used to, before everything had gone to hell for them. Beckoning to his brother with his hand, Kurai said in a low tone, "Come on. We don't want to have Mom send someone out here to get us. But I like being cold and wet. It gives us an excuse to keep being sad. We hardly need an excuse at this point, brother." The rest of the funeral was a somber affair that was held at the Hogasher residence, with many people, heroes, police officers, and civilians, speaking highly of their father. The biggest surprise to the two boys was the arrival of a scrawny blond man with his arm in a cast and a couple of bandages on his head. He shuffled along more than he walked, but he was standing well enough. All Might did his best to be unobtrusive, but it was inevitable that he would be noticed, given how his weakened state had been exposed by All for One, and he soon found himself being surrounded by several of the guests that had questions for him before he could reach Kurai and his brother. It wasn't until they heard the quiet clamor that surrounded him, followed by a couple of his bloody coughs, that drew Kurai's attention. "All Might?" he inquired as he moved to get a closer look. "Young Hikari?" He coughed again, wiping at his mouth. "Is that you?" "Yes, sir," he answered as he made his way through the group of people. "Excuse me." Good, you're here," All Might said tiredly as he laid his hollowed eyes upon his student. "My condolences for your family, young man. Your father was a good person, and I'll miss him and his support for heroes across our nation." "Thank you, sir," Kurai replied as he shook hands awkwardly with his teacher, still not used to using his left arm to do so. "I appreciate you coming out here to support my family." "Of course," the injured man nodded as they released each other. Glancing around at the people with expecting looks, he asked, "Is there somewhere that you and I can talk with your brother in private? I have something that we need to discuss." "Yes, sir." Kurai nodded as he beckoned for his teacher to follow him. To everyone else, he said in a slightly louder voice, "Please excuse us, this is a private affair for my family." The onlookers seemed a little put off that their chance to talk with the retired pro was being denied, but they could hardly go against the wishes of a crippled boy that had just lost his father. Making sure to grab Akururi on their way, Kurai led them to his father's office, which had remained untouched since his death. Trying to ignore the memories that the room contained, he locked the door behind them, then turned to face his teacher and asked, "What did we need to discuss, sir?" "A couple of things, but we can start out with the specifics between you and I," All Might began. Glancing at the office chair, he asked, "Is it alright if I sit? I just got out of the hospital late last night, and I'm still pretty beat." "Of course," Kurai nodded, for which the older man thanked him. "I'll get right to it," the blond man sighed. "I'm officially retired as a pro. My body won't let me fight another battle, and the last of my power is gone. I have no choice now but to entrust the future to you and young Midoriya, as much as I wish I didn't have to." The older man looked at his student with pain in his eyes before he lowered his head to him in a seated bow. "Forgive me, young Hikari. I know this burden has been weighing on you this entire time, and given what you've had to suffer through, I have no right to ask anything else of you. But still." He paused to take in a labored breath before he asked, "Will you still allow me to train you and young Midoriya, so that you can become the next heroes that inspire others to fight for peace? Will you take on the burden that I can no longer carry?" Kurai blinked in awe of the fact that the number one hero was bowing to him, seemingly intent on staying that way until he gave his teacher an answer. It took him a few moments before he said, "Sir, I won't lie to you. I'm way less than thrilled about taking on your responsibilities. I'm not like Midoriya. I never wanted to be number one. That said, I've been getting a lot of reminders this week about why I should keep going, even if life continues to knock me down. Because I was born with so much power, and because I was raised to do the right thing, I have an obligation to use these skills to the best of my ability. And if that means that the symbol of peace is counting on me to take up the standard, then I will.
And even if that weren't the case, the fact of the matter is that my father isn't around to keep people safe anymore, so I will do it for him. So, to answer your question, sir, I will do whatever is required of me. Kurai finished, unconsciously gripping his stump, which had been freed of stitches and wrappings the previous evening. Thank you, young man. All Might sighed as he straightened up. This means a great deal to me, knowing that young Midoriya doesn't have to take on this burden alone. Sir, if you don't mind my asking, why am I here? Akudori's electronic voice asked when Kurai held his tongue, unsure of how to respond. I knew that you were losing your power, but I don't see what Kurai and Midoriya taking your place has to do with me. Ah, yes, young Hikari, All Might said as he turned slightly toward the younger boy. I am here to tell you that your invention was a success. Ingenium's physician contacted me and Recovery Girl, and she's agreed to do the surgery the first weekday after everyone in UA has moved into the dorms. Surgery? Kurai repeated, his eyes going wide. Did Akudori manage to come up with a treatment for his tumor? For the first time in a while, he felt hope stirring in his chest that just maybe things could be better. No, All Might answered, causing Kurai to visibly deflate. The doctors are still working on your brother's case. Actually, he came up with an invention for you following your injury. You did what now? Kurai asked his brother, who looked suspiciously smug for a paralyzed person. Akudori, what's he talking about? Your brother knew that any standard prosthetic you received to replace your arm would not be able to handle your quirk, even one of the more high-end products that your insurance would cover, All Might explained. So he designed one and sent the blueprints to Ida's family's personal biomechanist. He initially claimed that he would not be able to make the thing, but he just found a way to make it work. He's making it as we speak, and Recovery Girl has offered to do the surgery to attach it to what's left of your original arm. You serious? Kurai asked as he touched the sore spot again while looking at his brother. You did that for me? Akudori managed another one of those lip twitches that had replaced smiles for him before answering. Good thing Tenya's dad vouched for me, or else the doctor probably wouldn't have listened to a 12-year-old. Thank you, Kurai said sincerely, his muscles shivering at the thought that he might have a complete body again, soon. One of these days I'm gonna find a way to pay you back for all that you've done for me. It's cost you too much in my opinion, but I'm still grateful. All Might smiled at the two brothers, glad to know that they still had each other to rely on. However, he had one last bit of business to attend to. Sorry to interrupt you two, but there was one more thing, he told them. The UA dorms that I mentioned before. The faculty needs to know if your mother is on board with our plans. She said it was up to me, and I'm in, Kurai told him. I understand that you'll probably need a signature on a legal document, but if you don't mind, could you bring them by another day or email them to her? Now's not really the best time. Of course, All Might nodded. I understand completely. I'll come back tomorrow, but that's the deadline. We're sending movers out this weekend to gather your things, so you'll need time to pack. Young Hikari, given your situation, Cementos and Power Loader have offered to come by and help you move your things. If you wish to make other arrangements, please let them know by tomorrow. Yes, sir. Kurai nodded, surprised and touched that the teachers would offer to help with the transition. Then again, they're probably trying their hardest to get on the parents' good sides. It'd hardly be cool of them to tell a crippled kid to pack up and move just like everyone else. Well, I'll take my leave. All Might grunted as he forced himself out of the chair, coughing a little bit as he did. Thank you both for your time, and once again, I'm sorry for what happened. I wish that I could have been able to save him. You saved a lot of people, regardless, Kurai replied, feeling his throat tighten just a little bit. I know he gladly traded his life for that outcome. Mr. All Might, Akudori's question stopped the man at the door. Would you mind staying at the house for just a little longer? I understand if you're busy, but I think our mom would appreciate it. Of course, young man. All Might nodded with a tired smile. I can spare a few minutes. He also wants your autograph, Kurai informed him. He forgot to ask for it on Island, and he's been kicking himself ever since. Figuratively, of course. Akudori glared at him before typing out, I can remotely program your new arm to explode. Don't think I won't. All Might chuckled at the exchange before he turned back to Akudori and said, Sure, I'd be glad to sign something for a fellow hero. Is there something in particular you wanted me to use? I know what he'd like, Kurai said as he moved to unlock the door and quickly disappeared into the hallway. All Might? Yes, young Hikari? Did you mean what you said? That I am a hero? All Might gazed at the boy with no small amounts of sympathy and compassion as he answered, Young man, you've given up your health and free will in order to help your brother succeed on his chosen path. You're definitely a hero in my eyes. Akurui.exe has stopped working. That weekend, their mothers having signed the paperwork to transfer Kurai into the new dorms, the moving company arrived to take the boys' belongings from the house. Mina had come over during the week with Uraraka and Midoriya to help him pack up his clothes and memorabilia into the boxes, since he and Akurui couldn't really do it themselves, and their mother had hardly come out of her room in the last few days except for when All Might had returned to deliver the documents that he needed. What really surprised him, though, was when more than half of Class 1A showed up on his front doorstep during the late morning that it was time to move out. Guys? Kurai asked as he saw everyone but Team Ruby, Todoroki, Bakugo, Aoyama, Hagakure, and Sato on his porch. Behind them was a large moving truck, with 2 men moving to open the back doors and lower a ramp. What are you doing here? I thought... We asked the teachers if it was cool for us to help you move your stuff. They gave us the green light, Kirishima said with a toothy grin. We're all here for you, man. What kind of class rep would I be if I didn't help my friend in need? Ida asked earnestly. Everyone else lived too far away to help with the move, Kaminari explained. All of us already sent our stuff ahead to the dorms, and we thought you could use an extra help? He was wary of Jiro's earjack hovering next to his head, threatening him with a concussion if he said something insensitive again. Kurai smiled a little bit at everyone before he said, Thanks, guys. Come on in. My stuff is in the first room down the hall. Need any extra tape? Sero asked as he walked past. Only if it can be used to tie Akurui's hands to his legs, Kurai answered. He's been playing Death March music out of his wheelchair every time we packed another box. As his classmates filed into the house, Mina lingered back to give him a hug and a kiss on the cheek. You doing okay? She asked him softly. No, he admitted as he rested his head on her shoulder. But maybe moving into a new home will help me move on. She mused as she stroked his hair gently. Let me know what I can do, okay? Date night. She drew back slightly, surprised to hear him suggest such a thing. Raising an eyebrow as he looked at her, he said, I'm not kidding. We have the weekend to unpack and get settled in, so let's go out on Sunday. Knowing Aizawa, we're going to have very little free time this summer, so we'd better take the chance while we can. Okay, sure, she grinned happily. But we'll be living in the same building from now on, so date nights will be mandatory on Fridays, even if it's just a stay-home one. Deal, he agreed. This Friday might not work, though. Why, you got plans? Something like that. You gonna fill in your very cute girlfriend in on it? She blinked her long eyelashes at him as she threw in a very adorable smile. However, he wasn't about to clue her in just yet. It's a surprise, he told her, causing her to pout and bump him in the cheek with one of her horns, and none too gently. Hey, Hikari, Jiro called from up the hall. Is this a vintage Lisa album? What? He shouted as he suddenly dashed down the hall, leaving an amused Mina standing by the door. I had that boxed up! A second later, she started laughing when she heard him yell, Kirishima, I saw that! Stop using your quirk to open my stuff! Come on, bro, the box was labeled entertainment. How was I not supposed to get curious? You're lucky I only have one hand right now! Kirishima, stop disrespecting your fellow student's privacy! Ida reprimanded his classmate. It is beneath the dignity of a UA student! As Mina continued to giggle, she heard a slight whirring sound that announced Akurui's presence. Thank you for looking after him. The boy typed out the message as soon as he stopped moving forward. I know you put the others up to this. It's a good way to get his mind off of things for a bit. I'm glad to know that someone who loves him is going to be there to help him out with all of this. What about you? Mina asked him, looking concerned for the boy. Are you going to be okay with him leaving, especially with your dad being gone and all? Someone needs to keep an eye on Mom. Akurui made a slight shrugging motion. My aunt and cousin might move in with us, but until then she'll have to make do with me. Also, my physical therapist, Nagata. Well, if you ever get lonely, we can always arrange a visit, she promised him. You probably can't come on campus, but we should be able to come to you. Before he could type out another reply, they heard Kurai yelling, No, no, no! Ida can carry that one! You stay out of it, Kaminari! What? Why? Because I don't trust you with power tools. Hey, that time in the support lab was an accident! A couple of hours later, everything was loaded onto the truck, and the 2 men drove off, saying that the boxes would be loaded onto Kurai's room when he got there, and they would even assemble the bed for him, though he would have to do the rest of the actual unpacking himself. Don't sweat it, dude, Sero told the crippled boy as they drove off. We'll help you out with that, too. Sato's actually down to help us once we arrive. Yes, please don't feel the need to unpack without assistance, Yayorozu assured him. We will all be more than happy to help you get settled into our new home. Thanks, he told them as they started to file out of his house. Are we all going to ride the train together? That was the plan, yes. Ida nodded sharply. Cool. You guys mind giving me a few minutes to say goodbye?
Of course, Ribbit.
Asui nodded.
The next train doesn't leave for 30 minutes, so we've got plenty of time to get there in time to meet the teachers at the dorms.
Great, Kurai said as he turned around. Be back soon. With that, he found himself walking down the hallway to his now empty room, whereas he stopped just inside the dorm frame. It was bizarre to see it that way, especially since he had never actually seen it empty. This had been his room since the time he was a toddler, and to have it vacant now almost made it feel as though it would be wrong for him to set foot in it. Like the fact that since he was now empty of his belongings, it should be void of his presence altogether. Weird seeing it like that. Kurai turned around to see Akururi sitting a few feet away, an album of some sort held in his lap. If Shuken comes to live with us, Mom says that will be his new room, so at least it won't be empty that way. I hope that they do, Kurai said as he walked toward his brother. I know it'll be good for Mom, seeing as Sakura knows exactly what she must be going through and how to get through it. Glancing at his brother's hands, he then asked, What do you have there? Nearly fell out of my chair getting this. Akururi held up the album after typing out his message. It's from Dad's office. It's a photo album with all of his favorite pictures of you. Mom, he and I are in it too, but it was his way of keeping track of your growing up. He has others for Mom and me, but I thought you might like to take this with you. Keep him close. Kurai was touched by the idea, so he took the album and tucked it under his arm before saying, Thanks, Akururi. I can hardly believe I'm actually going to miss you. I'll miss you too. Kurai then leaned down and hugged his brother, careful not to move his neck as he did so. I'll visit when my schedule permits it, he promised as he straightened up. Sighing to himself, he added, I suppose I should say goodbye to Mom. Don't bother. Akururi's message confused Kurai, so the younger boy explained, I tried to get her to come out once the lax boxes were being loaded, but she played deaf. How do you know she isn't sleeping? I heard her moving around the room. I am paralyzed, not hard of hearing. Kurai felt hurt by this. Why doesn't she want to come out to say goodbye? He wondered. She probably thinks that it will be less painful for her if she doesn't have to face the moment of your leaving. Akururi guessed. I'll see if I can get her to call you later, but she's been pretty depressed. Dad's gone, you're leaving for a fresh start, and she's stuck taking care of me by herself, at least for a while. Can't be easy. All right. Kurai sighed again, then decided to leave it be. All right. Tell her I love her, and I hope she'll call me soon. You got it. Good luck, Kurai. And to you, brother mine. Kurai had to admit, the new dorm building looked impressive. He had half expected a gray building with the bare necessities inside of it. After all, it had only been 3 days since construction had begun on the project. What they got instead was what looked like an apartment complex for trust fund kids, and that was just the outside. This is actually shaping up to be a lot cooler than I thought it would. Kurai conceded to himself while his classmates' conversations buzzed in his ears. Everyone had arrived, save for the American students, but they were expected to be along any minute. It's so great that everyone could come back to school, Sato said as he glanced at the heads surrounding him. I was worried we'd all get split up. Yeah, my parents took a lot of convincing, Hagakure groaned. Makes sense, you and Jiro got the worst of the gas attack, Kirishima mused. My parents were actually pretty cool about it, the earphone jack girl informed them. What about you, Hikari? Ojiro asked the resident cripple. I mean, you clearly got the go-ahead, but it'd take a lot of convincing for your folks. The group grew so quiet you could hear a pin drop in the grass in front of the UA dorm building. It took the tailed boy a couple of seconds to realize what he had said, and when he did, he got paler than a sheet. Hikari, the last conversation that I had with my father consisted of him telling me to continue on the path that leads to me becoming a hero. Kurai cut him off tonelessly, which somehow made it worse for the other boy. My mom wasn't about to go against that, so here I am. Before Ojiro could attempt to apologize again, they all heard a higher-pitched voice shouting, Hey guys! We made it in time! The class turned as a collective to see Ruby, Yang, Blake, and Weiss all approaching with suitcases in hand. The two sisters seemed as lively as ever, while their friends remained fairly stoic. The moment they came within an easy speaking distance, Yang and Ruby walked over to Kurai and surprised him by giving him a bone-crushing group hug. What? He managed to croak out. Off to the side, Mina was looking less than happy about what was happening, but it wasn't like he had any control over it. We heard about your dad, Ruby said quietly, though she and her sister did not relinquish their hold. We're so sorry. We lost our mom pretty early on, Yang explained. We're here if you need anything, man. Mina looked less annoyed now, but she hoped the embrace wouldn't last too much longer. Fortunately, the two of them had the good sense to put him down soon enough, aware of the fact that his damaged body could only handle so much right then. As they stepped back, the elder sister grinned and couldn't refrain from rubbing the boy's head where his hair had changed colors while telling him, I'd say that's a fresh look, but I think Smolderoki over there has it patented. Now that she said it, the rest of the class had to admit the two boys did somewhat resemble one another when it came to their hairstyles, even though Kurai's was much shorter at the moment, and the discoloration on his right didn't quite reach the halfway point on his scalp.
The two of you almost look like you could be brothers.
Asui commented, causing both boys to blink in surprise as they reflexively re-examined each other. This was when Aizawa came out of the building, looking haggard and worn as ever. "Class 1A, he called out gruffly. "You're all here. Good." "Mr. Aizawa," Kirishima replied as the man came closer. "You're back too."
We were kind of worried you might not be our teacher anymore.
Asui commented as he stopped a few feet in front of them.
The media guys seemed pretty mad at you.
"I was surprised too," the man shrugged. "But I guess they decided it would be more efficient to have the same teachers return, regardless of the media outcry." "In other words, screw 'em," Kurai muttered under his breath. That was fine with him. Other than his interview alongside Gang Orca, he'd never had a positive interaction with the paparazzi. That feels like it was a lifetime ago, he thought morosely. "Before we get started, there's something I need to clear up," Aizawa announced, causing all the students to quiet themselves almost instantly. He glanced around all of them for a few silent moments before he sighed and said, "I'm going to set aside a number of things and just say this. Kirishima, Ida, Yayorozu, Midoriya, and Todoroki. You five broke the rules and went to rescue Bakugo, despite our warning to leave it to the pros." When everyone continued to simply stare back at the man, he sighed and said, "Based on everyone's lack of a reaction, I'm going to assume that you knew something about this, but chose not to disclose the fact. So if it weren't for All Might's retirement and the loss of Commissioner Hogosha, I would expel every single one of you right now, save for Xiaolong, Bakugo, Jiro, and Hagakure." Team Ruby looked rattled by this, but the others had more or less expected him to say something like that, so they stayed completely quiet while they waited for him to finish. He didn't take long to say, "You may have been aware of this plan, but the five I mentioned are the ones that broke the rules. As such, you will need to behave as model students. Prove that I can trust you again, or else leave my class. Now come along, enjoy your new home." Without bothering to see anyone that was following him, he started walking toward the entrance to the 5-story building. The fact that there was absolutely no break in his tone or speech patterns left even his regular students feeling thrown off. "We're supposed to get excited about living here after that?" Kurai thought as he rubbed his stump again. "Is he always like that?" Ruby whispered to Uraraka, who nodded a little glumly. "Yikes." Tch. Bakugo snorted before grabbing Kaminari by the arm, saying, "Come here, bolt brain." He dragged the other student behind some bushes, where they heard a loud yelp, followed by a sharp burst of electricity that spat out a stupefied Kaminari, who immediately began to babble senselessly, setting his classmates to laughing while Bakugo walked around him with a sullen look on his face. "Hey, dumbhair," he grunted as he stood in front of Kirishima. "Here." He held out a wad of money to the redhead, whose eyes bugged out at the sight. "Did you shake him down for cash?" he yelped. "No!" Bakugo snarled as he slapped the money against his friend's chest before letting it drop, Kirishima barely catching it up in time. "It's my money, you idiot, to replace what you spent. Don't say I never did anything for you." With that, he walked past the others, seemingly intent on following Aizawa. What was that about? Kurai asked his girlfriend, who shrugged helplessly. No idea. "Kaminari!" Bakugo barked over his shoulder. "Show him your dumb side." "Yay!" The blonde boy babbled, causing Jiro to double over laughing. "Man, you're hopeless," she giggled. "Hey guys," Kirishima said with a large smile as he approached the larger group again. "I know this won't make up for getting you all into trouble, but I'll order us all some dinner to celebrate our new living arrangements tomorrow night." "Awesome!" most of the others shouted. "Asocha!" Kaminari agreed. As they started moving to follow their instructor, Kurai was surprised when Todoroki walked over to fall in line beside him and Mina. "Something up?" he asked his friend curiously. After all, it wasn't like Todoroki to be the one to approach others without a specific purpose in mind. "I'd be proud," the other boy said in a low tone while keeping his eyes straight ahead. "You'd be proud," Kurai repeated, his confusion growing. "Proud of what, exactly?" "Asui said that you and I look like we could be brothers now," Todoroki replied, his gaze unchanging. "I'd be proud if you were. I know Akurui is." Those words left Kurai so dumbstruck and tongue-tied that he found himself unable to say anything until after they had made it to the building that they would be staying at the rest of the school year. Aizawa showed them that the first floor had a common kitchen area that connected to a dining area that could also double as a study hall. Next to that was a nice-looking lounge with several plush couches, a large brand-new TV and entertainment center that looked like it could hold a lot of movies, or a few game consoles. Down the hall they would find the laundry rooms, bath area, as well as elevators that could take them up the floors that they would live on. Everything looked like it had been taken out of a modern living catalog and directly inserted into the place. "We're living in a mansion!" Uraraka swooned, prompting Izuku to catch her up before she fell back on her head. "There's so much space!" Mina laughed excitedly, jumping up and down like a kid in a candy store with their parents' credit card. Wait, both bath areas are in the common space? Yang whispered excitedly to Blake. This is awesome! The raven-haired girl could only introduce her hand to her face in exasperation of her friend's antics. Unfortunately for Yang's plans to catch some of the boys with their pants down, she was overheard by Aizawa, and he made sure that she knew it. They're separated by gender. He growled as his eyes glowed crimson at her. And you'll behave yourself. Yes, sir, she immediately squawked. After that, he explained that while there was a total of 32 rooms spread across the top 4 floors, each level would only house 6 students, and in no particular order. Each one had its own mini-fridge, walk-in closet, toilet, AC, and heating system, plus a balcony with enough room for a small table and 2 chairs if a student could get a set. The only one that seemed apprehensive about the size of the new living quarters was Yayorozu. Everyone else was incredibly impressed with what they had been given. This is about the same size as their closet at home, but I'm sure I can make it work, she murmured to herself as she looked about one of the rooms that would remain empty, though a few of her classmates heard her. This place is the size of my parents' house! Uraraka exclaimed before she started to fall over again, and this time Midoriya wasn't quite fast enough to catch her. Ochako! He yelped. Ochako? Kurai repeated in his head as he looked on from inside the doorway. Since when does he call her by her first name? He decided something must have happened between the two of them while he was laid up in the hospital, but he knew that there would be time to ask about it later. Once they had become familiar with the layout, Aizawa told him that they had the weekend to get unpacked, and that they would all find their belongings in their assigned rooms. I'll tell you about the lessons that we have planned for you on Monday, he informed them. Until then, get to work, and keep the place clean while you do. As he passed by Kurai, he said in a lowered tone, Your room was built a little differently than the others, so you'll have some extra room to fit in a work table that you can use for maintenance whenever you need it. Power Loader will also be receiving schematics just in case you need to alter the prosthetic. Thank you, sir. Thank Principal Nezu, he's the one that arranged it, his teacher replied. And Hikari. Yes, sir? You have my condolences for your loss, Aizawa murmured before he departed, leaving his student to settle into their new home. Considering that he had never once thought to speak to a student about their private life before, Kurai imagined that this was about all the pity that he could expect from his teacher. Still, coming from him, it's quite a bit. The class spent the rest of the day unpacking their belongings, many of them taking 15-minute shifts in pairs to help Kurai set up his place. He made a note in his head to get something for the class as a whole to thank them for everything that they had done to help him. He did insist on unpacking one box by himself, a larger one that had gone in a space that the other students realized their rooms were lacking. Hey, what gives? Kirishima asked as he took note of the area, which increased the square footage in Kurai's room by about 1/3. Why'd you get such a big place? Some of the equipment in my costume requires maintenance from time to time, and I like to handle that stuff myself, the boy answered with a shrug. As long as I don't alter anything on my weapon, I'm allowed to do small repairs in my room. I've been doing my own work on my motorcycle for a long time, so I'd like to keep up the habit. You ride a motorcycle? Tokoyami asked in surprise. Yeah, it was a gift, Kurai replied. My dad started teaching me to maintain it when I was 7. He used to ride, but I finally got a license a little while before school started. Wait, so what happens to it now? Kirishima inquired as he used his quirk to hammer in a nail that would hold up Kurai's autographed photo of himself and Gang Orca in the hospital together. All Might pretty much gave me his parking spot in the faculty lot so that I could bring it with me, Kurai admitted, causing both of his classmates to do a double take. Seeing the disbelief on their faces, he explained, It's been here since yesterday evening. It was his idea. He doesn't own a car, and he said that he didn't want the place to go to waste. The only condition he gave me is that I have to take him places every once in a while. Man, between you and Midoriya, I'm not sure who the teacher's pet is. Kirishima joked with a toothy grin meant to take any sting out of his words. By the time everyone was finished, it was late in the evening, but they were all satisfied at having their living spaces all ready to go. And now we've even got a day to unwind a little, Kaminari added as he leaned back on the sofa where Midoriya and Kurai were sitting, the latter massaging the irritated tissue on his right arm. I know we could have died and all, but it's pretty cool that we all get to live together like this. All the boys, minus Bakugo, were now relaxing in the common area, enjoying the new furniture that had been given to them. Yes, a unified class is just what we need after everything that's happened, Ida declared in agreement. So he never relaxes, does he? Sero asked Kurai, who immediately shook his head in the negative. Our families went to a beach vacation together 6 years ago. He spent most of the time reading on how to care for engines that get clogged with sand and ocean water. The boy chuckled, though he did wince a bit as his severed arm throbbed painfully. The only part where he actually got in the water was because his brother threw him in, and he spent the rest of the time checking that his radiators hadn't gotten ruined by the salt water. It could have been a real problem, Ida protested, waving his arms frantically, irritation plastered on his face. I hadn't been in the ocean since before my quirk appeared. I didn't know what it would do. Pretty sure the Tensei tested what would happen to the biomechanical engines in salt water before you even got your powers. Kurai countered dryly. To the others, he added, spoiler alert, nothing bad happened. It could have. Hey, guys. Mina's voice interrupted what was set to become a heated conversation, and the boys turned to see her flanked by all of the girls, except for Asui. You all done unpacking? Yep, Midoriya answered with a thumbs up. Sweet, Kurai's girlfriend said with a mischievous smile, 'cause me and the girls were all talking, and we want to take a look around and see who's got the coolest room in the dorm. Hagakure finished, leaving all of the boys dumbstruck. For the record, I'm against this nonsense, Weiss informed them from the rear of the group. Blake looked like she agreed, but she said nothing either way. Why, because you think you'll lose? Ruby snickered, causing her teammate to glare at her angrily. It's not a contest, you dolt! Sounds like one to me, Kirishima exclaimed as he got to his feet, surprising his friends with his enthusiasm. Let's do it! Rallying the other boys, he led the way to the elevators and staircase, eager to see what everyone's personal tastes happened to be. Hey, Weiss, Yang said in an undertone as they trailed behind the others. This will be a perfect chance to see Mr. Icy Hot's private space. Aren't you just a little bit curious? No, don't be absurd. The pale girl sniffed as she turned her nose up at her classmate. Such things are beneath me. I don't need to see what Todoroki's bedroom looks like to be peers with him. Well, they aren't beneath me. Yang snickered as she went ahead with the others. Hey, wait up! Don't get to the good part without me! Weiss's cheeks heated up before she called out, Wait! Someone needs to go along and make sure that things don't get out of hand. The second floor had 6 rooms occupied, and Midoriya's was the first to be inspected. Apparently, it only then dawned on him that everyone was going to come in turns once they were at his door because he suddenly yelled, Wait, no, you can't go in there! Unfortunately, he was too late, if the laughs from Uraraka and Hagakure were anything to go by. Deku, you're such a fanboy! The Gravity Girl giggled as she made room for a few more of the students. Upon seeing the room, Kurai turned to his friend and said, You might have issues, dude. The entire room was All Might themed, from the bed covers to the posters covering every other inch of the walls. Even the curtains had their color palette taken from the retired hero. There were also several shelves worth of All Might books, action figures, and other collectibles. I just admire him. The green-haired boy practically whimpered as he turned bright scarlet while hunching over his desk. Seeing this, Uraraka moved over and patted him on the back, careful not to touch him with all 5 fingers, and said, Aw, cheer up, Deku. Any hero would be lucky to have a fan this devoted to them. I'm sure someday you'll have a fan like this, too. That's not really what I'm going for, he groaned, though he seemed to perk up a little bit at her words. Next room, Mina sang once everyone had gotten a turn to check out the interior design, a skip in her step as she moved out the door. For the record, I thought your room was totally awesome, Ruby whisper shouted to Midoriya as they left it behind. I want half the stuff in there. Sis, you worry me, Yang told her. Next up were Aoyama and Tokoyami, both of them truly bizarre in their own way. Their more flamboyant classmate's room was decked out from top to bottom in shiny, sparkling things, including a disco ball that reflected even more light from the ceiling. The girls' opinions differed on being not surprised to somehow actually expecting more. The boy with the raven's head did his best to keep the others from entering, but Ashido and Hagakure overpowered him, opening the door to a room that seemed to practically swallow any light that entered it. Everything was covered black, or a very, very dark shade of purple, and it was difficult to see anything other than some odd-looking keychains and gothic art pieces. Most of the girls were a little too intimidated to even go inside, but there was a sword in the corner that Midoriya, Blake, and Ruby took an interest in. Before they could get their hands on it, though, Tokoyami shouted at them to leave, and since his voice seemed to be taking on the qualities of his dark shadow, everyone decided that they'd seen enough. Kurai's room was meant to be next, but he stood resolutely in front of the door and muttered one word. No. You don't get a choice, his girlfriend chuckled as she jabbed him one of his ticklish spots, causing him to topple over on the floor, his sense of balance still off due to the lack of his arm, all of which served to leave the door handle completely unguarded. Spinning right around the gasping boy, she opened the door and stuck her head in, only to quickly back out and shut the door just as fast as she had opened it. Kurai struggled to rise until Mina moved to help him up and said, Sorry, I did that. I didn't know. Next time, just take my word for it, he said as he accepted her help up. Did we miss something? Soro asked Ida, who simply shrugged, looking just as confused as they were. I mean, we helped him move in. It's not like we haven't seen most of what's already in there already. True, except for that one box. Okay, guys, let's move along, Mina said to cut off Todoroki as she moved away from the door. Nothing that we need to see in there. Okay, Ojiro said blankly, reflecting the feelings of most of the class. Now they all really wanted to know. What could Kurai have in there that he didn't want to show anyone? I think that's everyone on this floor, Ruby said a little too quickly. Let's go up to... No, that's not it, Kaminari said as he crossed his arms. Pretty sure that there are 2 people left on this floor. No, there aren't, Ruby protested. Wait, the girls are getting judged too? Blake asked, suddenly looking very worried. I don't know if that's such a... I'm down. Mina exclaimed excitedly as she started walking across the hall toward a door with a name on a plate next to it. We can start with mine. I don't like this, Kurai said under his breath as everyone else moved to follow the energetic pink girl. Why, because you two won't be alone? Kaminari teased him. Let's be real, that's probably going to happen at some point in the next few weeks, whether I want it to or not. Kurai deadpanned, though his thoughts continued to wander on the matter. Aizawa has to know that we're together. Seems kind of against his whole I do everything that is logical shtick to put us right across the hall from each other. What's his angle? Don't sound so excited about it, the electric boy chuckled. You're lucky, dude. Girls like her don't come along every day. Trust me, I've looked. Did you just admit to checking out my girlfriend? Kurai asked the other boy, who suddenly looked very nervous. Hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go weigh in on the whole room contest thing. Gotta be thorough, you know? With a nervous laugh, he bolted for Mina's room, along with the rest of the class. Yeah, that's what I thought. Mina's room featured a more than healthy palette of pink and black coloring that was somehow girly and bizarre at the same time. Upon being dragged over by the others to see it, Kurai turned to his girlfriend and said, I expected more Ridley Scott. He had been to her house multiple times prior, but he'd always declined to visit her room before now. Hey, she protested. Just because I like Alien doesn't mean I gotta have my walls covered in this stuff. I feel like that was directed at me somehow, Midoriya said under his breath. After that, Ruby also did her best to block the entrance to her room, but was ultimately defeated by her sister's iron grip, dragging her away from the entrance, despite her wails. Once inside, most of the others began to laugh, having a certain sense of deja vu. Only Midoriya refrained from chuckling, and that was because he understood Ruby's pain. Her entire room was covered in hero merchandise, but her books and posters were mixed with famous hero gear, mostly the firearm variety. Americans sure love their guns, Kurai thought as he inspected a poster that included the rough schematics of an anti-tank rifle, titled the Hecate Mark II, capable of punching through military-grade vehicle armor at over a mile away. The room featured a lot of black and red coloring, which Kurai found interesting. Psychology generally shows that when people are constantly exposed to red, they're more irritable and prone to violent outbursts. Yet Ruby was one of the most happy, light-hearted people that he'd ever met. Guess there's an exception to every rule. Hey, this room has more space in it, like Hikari's, Kaminari pointed out as he moved to a workbench littered with various tools. What gives? Back at Second Amendment, we were always expected to maintain our own gear, Blake answered him. Part of our exchange program is that we have to keep that up, so UA has provided us with the necessary tools and space to do so. What kind of stuff are you guys maintaining? Jiro asked as she inspected what looked like a whetstone and oil used to clean a large blade. You'll see on Monday. Yang grinned as she popped her knuckles. Our hero costumes just came through customs, and I am so ready to be back in action. Your ways are strange, Tokoyami said as he walked out of the room, followed by his classmates. I feel so judged, Ruby whined from next to Midoriya as everyone moved on. Join the club. The class proceeded to inspect the rest of the rooms, minus Asui and Bakugo, and for the most part, they ended up being what Kurai expected. The only exceptions were Sero, who had a Caribbean beach theme, and Todoroki, who had so completely remodeled his room in the style of a Japanese temple that it hardly bore a resemblance to the other units at all. Sato's room was the last to be visited, and while his decorating skills were rudimentary at best, his baking skills were high class if Yayorozu and Weiss's reactions to his chiffon cake were anything to go by. None of my 4 bakers could make something this delightful, the American heiress declared while the group was eating the still warm cake in the common area. If you don't make it as a hero, you should come to my estate as the head dessert chef, Sato. Thanks. He turned to look at Ruby, who shrugged a little helplessly. We're still training her out of giving backhanded compliments, the younger girl told him. They're as close to saying nice things as she can get right now. While this was happening, Kurai was struggling to use his fork on the fluffy food with his left hand, as he was having limited success. Mina had gone to get a box of slips and of papers for people to write down their votes for the best room, so he was by himself at one of the tables, until Yang plopped down next to him. Hey guy, she said with a cheery smile. Got a question for you. What's up? He asked, frowning as his stump flared with pain, and he jerked his fork, dropping the piece that he had spent the last 2 minutes acquiring. Damn it. Setting down the fork itself, he turned to Yang and asked, you had a question? Little bird told me that you got a motorcycle, right? Yang chose to ignore the frustrated look on the boy's face when she posed the question. Yeah, he replied, his expression reverting to a more neutral one. What about it? Can I borrow it sometime? I've got one back home. I don't want to get out of practice. No. He turned back to use his food and picked up the fork. I'll pay for the gas I use. No. I'll top off the tank whenever I take it out. No. I'll wash and detail it. No. What if I... No. You didn't even let me... No! With the last utterance of the short word, he clenched his fist and warped the fork beyond use. Glaring at the now useless piece of metal, he let out a grunt and stood up, dropping the utensil on the table. I think I've had enough cake. I'm going to bed. As he left, Yang noticed the beads of sweat on his brow that he had to wipe at before he passed her by. Tell your sister she can have my piece if she wants seconds. What was that all about? She asked of no one in particular once he was gone. The motorcycle was his uncle's. Mina informed her somberly, startling the blonde girl. She hadn't heard her classmates approach. It was willed to him, and his dad taught him how to maintain it. It's one of the only things he has left that connects him to the both of them. Oh, shoot, Yang said, feeling like she had just been punched in the stomach by Muscular again. I had no idea. Now I feel like a total jerk. Not your fault. He didn't tell you, Mina sighed. I was hoping he'd stick around for a little longer, but he's been pretty moody the last few days, understandably. She looked down the elevator down the hall, which showed that it was now resting on the second floor. That, and I think he might be in pain right now, Yang informed her, drawing the pink girl's attention back to her. Say what? He was sweating and he kept grabbing at his stump. Oh, crap, Mina blurted right before she took off down the hall, dropping a box filled with blank paper slips inside it. Ashido? Do the vote without me, she called over her shoulder as she ran past Yayorozu and Uraraka. I gotta check something. What was that about? The gravity girl asked. No idea. Something tells me that Hikari is involved, Blake commented. Maybe one of us should go with her and make sure that he's okay. We're on it, Midoriya said as he and Ida put their plates down. We'll be back soon. Put our votes down for Todoroki, the class rep added as he followed his friend. Kurai, open the door! They found Mina pounding her fist on the last door down the hall, to no apparent avail. Ashido, what's going on? Ida asked as he and Midoriya came closer. Did he lock himself in? Yeah, it's no good, she said worriedly. I think he's really hurting, but he won't let me in. He won't even say anything. I could always break down the door if we need to, but at that point I feel like it'd be better to go get Mr. Aizawa, Midoriya told him. No, Mina says firmly with a swift shake of her head. The last thing he needs right now is for teachers to be doing another psyche eval on him. He had to go through plenty of those at the hospital already. Ashido, we need to do something, Ida insisted. If he won't let us in, we have to get someone to help us. Mina looked like she wanted to yell at him in frustration, but then an idea presented itself to her. Raising a finger to her lips, she said, Yeah, okay, I get it. We'll get the teachers. Beckoning to the confused boys to follow her, she walked a few paces away and pointed at Midoriya's door, keeping the one finger over her lips as she did. Once they had followed her, she whispered, Midoriya, your balcony lines up next to his, right? Yeah. The green-haired boy nodded, keeping his voice low. Wait, do you want us to jump over and get in through the window? Shh! She hissed at him, instilling silence in both boys immediately. We do way more dangerous stuff during combat practice. It'll be fine. And by the way, the only one going in there is going to be me. Ashido, I strongly suggest that we zip it, Ida. Her sharp tone surprised the both of them. She was always so carefree and happy sounding. This level of intensity was a little unnerving coming from Mina. You're going to go stand at the door and keep trying to talk to Kurai while I get in through the window. Midoriya, stay on your balcony until I tell you that everything's cool in there. Wait, why wouldn't it be okay? He asked, looking worried for her. He's not going to hurt you, is he? No, but if he does need medical attention, I need extra muscles to keep him in place until Recovery Girl shows up, Mina answered him. His quirk can get unstable if he's not thinking clearly and if he's getting phantom pains again. Didn't they give him medicine for that? He doesn't want to take them, Mina grumbled. Says that he needs to learn to live without depending on drugs as a coping mechanism. An admirable goal, but one that cannot be achieved within weeks of receiving such a hideous injury, Ida commented. No kidding, class rep, Kurai's girlfriend snapped. I just want to see if we can resolve this without getting the adults involved. Happy medium for him and us. Now, are you two going to help your friend, or am I going to have to melt his new door? I'm in, Midoriya promised. Turning to the taller boy, he added, Come on, Ida. If the teachers get involved, he won't be able to take steps towards handling this without them. Fine, but the minute I hear the signs of a physical altercation, I'm getting Mr. Aizawa, he told them. People are unpredictable when they're in pain, and I don't want to see one of you hurt, especially by him. Thanks, Ida. Let's do this, boys. Remember, don't get a teacher unless I call for one, or he's getting out of control. And don't say anything once you hear me talking to him. A commentary is the last thing he'll need in all this. In fact, just don't listen in past me getting into the room, okay? I'll yell if I need you. Fortunately, Kurai had forgotten to lock his balcony door after opening it earlier to set a lawn chair on it, so Mina was able to get into the room easily via Midoriya's balcony. What she saw once she was inside distressed her. Kurai was shivering in a ball on the floor, blood dripping from his stump, over his fingers and onto the hardwood floor. He was barely visible in the moonlight that was the sole source of luminance in the area, but it was hard to miss once she knew what she was looking at. With a shot of alarm, she realized that he had scratched himself so hard that he was carving furrows into his own flesh. She could hear him crying softly into his shirt, the sound just barely audible when she silently opened the glass doors. I couldn't even hear him from outside, she thought as she stepped into the near room. I had no idea the phantom pains were this bad. Kurai? She asked softly. He played deaf, so she cried again, saying, Kurai, did you skip out on your meds? Go away, he groaned softly. I'm fine. You were bleeding all over your floor from an arm that you lost a week ago, she shouted at him, not caring that Ida might hear her. You're not fine. You need to take care of yourself. I am, he grunted, breathing heavily. I need to learn to cope without the damn drugs. Clenching his fingers more tightly, Mina felt her heart tear as new cuts began to weep out of the ruined limb. Stop! She begged him as she moved to sit beside him and grab at his wrist with both of her hands, trying to pull his claw-like grip away from his already ruined limb. You're making it worse! Unfortunately, his quirk made him too strong for her to pry his hand loose. It can't get worse! He spat, sweat running in rivulets down his body, mixing with the tears coming out of his face. Kurai Hikari, if you don't take your meds right now, I will have Midoriya come in here and force feed them to you. Don't think I won't, she growled, feeling her own eyes sting with sorrow and frustration. You can't move forward if you can't think beyond your ability to feel pain. No one's saying that this is going to be a permanent solution, believe me. Right now, you still need to heal from a lot of things besides your arm, and you can't do that if you're like this. Mina, he croaked, leave me alone! No, she shouted as she let go of his wrist and wrapped her arms all the way around him, not caring that her shirt was quickly getting stained with his blood. You're not alone, Kurai. I'm not going to let you think otherwise, not even for a second. You're not allowed to go through something like this without me, not anymore. Stop, he begged, his grip on his stump loosening. You're gonna get bloody. Like I care, she said as she hugged him tighter. My shirt can be replaced, dummy. You can't, and like I've told you before, I have a very strict policy concerning dead boyfriends. I'm not. Maybe not today, but someday, if I let this go right now, Mina answered, feeling his grip weaken further. I'm here to keep you going, Kurai, not let you sink. I love you too much to let you get hurt, especially when you're the one doing the hurting. Damn it, can't I just mourn in private? He was crying again. Not like this, no, she said stubbornly, finally managing to grab his remaining hand and hold it in her own. Once you've come to a good place, you can mourn for everything that you've lost on your own. But for now, I'm going to be here for you, whether you like it or not. I'm sorry, he murmured. There's a lot of things you should be sorry about. She teased him lightly, her tears turning into ones of relief as she felt the mood in the room change just a bit. What are you sorry for exactly? I ruined the day for you by being selfish, he hissed as more pain shot through his ghost of an arm. And I was rude to everyone when they wanted to see the room. Well, I wasn't exactly the most respectful girl when I made you move out of the way. She half laughed, still feeling the tears sliding out of her black eyes. So, let's get you your medicine, wash up in the sink, and get you to bed. Where is the stuff? Over the course of the next 20 minutes, Mina helped Kurai to take his medicine, change into fresh clothes, and clean his stump's cuts before bandaging him up with stuff from a first aid kit that he hid in one of his drawers. Once he was settled into bed, she kissed him on the head and asked to borrow one of his shirts, since her top was more or less ruined by bloodstains. She didn't want to call unnecessary attention to him if someone happened to see her in a bloody shirt, so he agreed to loan her one of his. Fortunately, they wore a similar size, so once she had changed, she went out into the hall, immediately shutting the door behind her with a long sigh. I thought the girlfriend was supposed to be the high-maintenance one in the relationship, she groaned inwardly. Not that she regretted her relationship with Kurai. She was just stressed and worried for the both of them at this point. Is he okay now? Ah! Mina yelped as she turned to see Ida standing by the door. Jeez, Ida, you're gonna give a girl a heart attack! I thought you'd have left by now! My apologies, but I wasn't going anywhere until I was certain that he was alright, the tall boy replied. Also, I'm pretty sure that Midoriya is still out on the balcony, per your instructions. Ah, crap! Mina swore as she yanked her phone out of her pocket and punched in a few words to Izuku. Poor guy's been out there the whole time. Kurai? Ida reminded her. What's the situation with him? It was like I thought. Mina half lied, not wanting him to know that Kurai had unintentionally injured himself. Apparently, the class rep had honored her request to not listen in on whatever was said between the two of them. He really just needed to take his meds to help with the pain. He's actually sleeping now, so thanks for not calling someone over. he needs all the rest that he can get right now. Excellent. Ida smiled, looking relieved. I suppose I'll head off to bed myself. Good night, Ashido. And thank you for looking out for him. Mina felt a little bad for keeping the whole truth from the class rep, but she knew that if he saw the blood, he would get the teachers involved, and she didn't want that just yet. If he does it again, I'll have to at least consider it, she thought as she watched Ida leave. But for now, I just want to give him the chance to rest in safety. Her phone buzzed, alerting her to the fact that Midoriya had come inside and was now getting ready for bed. Sending a reply to apologize once again, Mina then hesitated in front of her boyfriend's room. She had originally been planning to spend the night in her new room, enjoying the fact that she had a place she could truly call her own. But now she wasn't so sure that she wanted to do that. He does sleep better when I'm with him, she thought as she reached for his door handle, and he definitely needs his rest after what just went down. But if Aizawa finds out I spend the night in his room, he might kick us out. Although he didn't actually say anything about us having sleepovers. True, he had told Yang off about the showers, but he hadn't said a word when it came to visiting privileges between rooms. Ah, screw it, she decided. If he chews me out later, I'll just remind him that he wasn't specific about it. With that, she opened the door, ducked inside, and locked the door behind her. Kurai had hardly stirred when she slid into the covers with him, except to mumble something unintelligible. Kissing him on the head once more, she laid her head down and whispered, Sleep well, Kurai. You're not alone. And sleep well they did.
Well, that was draining. I don't know, how did you, I mean, like, as Aftermath chapters go, what did you think?
I thought it was a really good balance, because it had a lot of the fun fluff, but it was also really heavy, too.
Yeah.
Because it started heavy, and it had some fluff, and then it ended heavy.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me, it was kind of relatable, too, so, or at least at the end.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of Kurai's self-defense mechanisms, like when it comes to stuff up here, kind of I have some similar tendencies, or am I projecting on that?
Yeah, no, I think you do have a little bit.
Sorry, that's not charging.
No, I think that you do put a little bit of yourself in different ways into many of your characters.
Yeah.
And so I think, especially with like really emotionally charged moments, and so that one, like that end of the chapter, I was like, I've been here. I feel like I've been here at some point. Obviously, you have never lost an arm, so that's good.
Thank God.
But
no.
yeah, so we open with the funeral.
Open with the funeral. Yeah, I thought. I originally planned on opening this up like with the actual funeral, but I honestly couldn't figure out a way to write the chapter without like making the funeral just drag. And then like I didn't want people to like lose it, like not lose interest for lack of a better term, because I feel like if you made it this far in the story, you're pretty well invested. But
you didn't want it to drag.
Yeah, I didn't want it to drag. I didn't want to make it for a dry read for you guys, so I decided to open up with the after part. But one of the important things that happens in this opening scene is that you guys get to see Shuken for the first time. Mm-hmm. And just a quick reminder, Shuken is actually Akira and Kurai's older cousin. He's older than Kurai by a year or two, I think. Mm-hmm. And he's an only child. But I've mentioned him a couple times, so I figured it was about time that he should be brought in and introduced. And I thought this was a really good place to do it because, like, you know, he was really young when his dad died. He was like 6, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly. Yeah, he was like 6 years old when his dad died. So I thought it would be kind of appropriate for him to kind of be there for his cousins, be like...
That's super young. I thought he was older.
No. Kurai's uncle died. Their uncle died 10 years before this happened. So Kurai would have been 15. Kurai would have been 5. Shuken would have been 6 or 7.
What kind of sociopath works a 5-year-old so hard at baseball?
Wait, what?
There's a flashback I'm thinking of that you wrote.
Where Kurai's dad is working him at baseball?
Oh, that was his dad, not his uncle.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
What are you?
I was like, for some reason I was thinking that was his uncle, and I'm like, no wonder he was falling in the grass.
No, his dad was he lied. Okay, for context, he lied about doing his baseball practice, so his dad made him go out and like do extra of it to teach him a lesson.
Yes. Okay, but he was older.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I was thinking that was his uncle, and I was like, he was a 5-year-old and he remembers this guy fondly? What? Okay, sorry.
No.
I got confused.
No.
Okay.
But Shuken's dad died 10 years before, like 10 years and some change before this.
Okay.
But yeah, so Shuken's been where they're at. You know, he's like, and he knows that like there's not really anything he can say that'll make it better. So he knows that the best thing he can do is just to be there for them right now, like as they need him.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't want to go with the whole sappy. Don't worry about it. It gets better.
Yeah.
It gets easier each day. It's like, no, it doesn't. Stop lying. And he's like, this is a family of fairly pragmatic people. Like no one in their family like has any delusions about, you know, puppies and sunshine days. They're like, yeah, bad things happen. We have to learn how to deal with. Like they're not gonna say that to these guys now.
That being said, Akurui is like, he gives some pretty heartfelt fluff here, because I feel like the conversation that the brothers have is really sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
they're being brothers about it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and I thought that Akurui was being super, super thoughtful, and I was like, this is like, I mean, I guess it's not out of character, it's just slightly surprising.
Yeah.
Just how kind not that he was being kind, but how
he's being kind in his own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like every interaction between siblings is different. This is kind of their way, like them poking fun at each other. Like that's how they show each other they love each other.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that even for a couple seconds is like kind of them reaching out to each other and being like, all right, we're both here. We're gonna get through this, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun writing that scene.
And then we have.
I'm glad that it turned out well.
The wake. All Might shows up.
Yep, All Might showed up. Yeah, I was. Again, like this chapter changed kind of a bit. Like changed a fair number of times, like on the fly. Because originally I was just gonna have him come in like after the wake, but I figured, you know, this got like Kurai's dad was a big deal, so like a wake for him is gonna last like all day, if not several days. So, you know, if the timetable lines up, then All Might's got to come during the wake at some point. So I just so that's how that ended up working out. And then it was a little tricky trying to figure out. I'm like, oh, does he come in like toward the end of the night, like trying to be low profile, or does he just kind of try and come in, keep a low profile anyway? I eventually just went with him like trying to keep his head down as much as he could, and obviously it's not going to work anymore. But good news for Kurt. So good news. He comes in. He's like, I have good news. Akurui gets his tumor out. Not that good. But Kurai will be getting a new arm. Of course he will.
Yes.
Can't really have someone in the hero course with just one arm when they're supposed to be two at least.
And I just thought that the moment with All Might and Akurui was so sweet.
Oh, where he tells him that he's a hero too?
My heart! Oh! He's like, am I really a hero? You know, not like that.
I thought that was
a computer, but
I thought that was a big. I wanted to put in that moment for Akurui because, like he wants to study biomechanics. He wants to study fusing machine and man. He doesn't aspire to be a hero, but he's still like not as much as Izuku, but All Might's still his number one hero. He looks up to this guy very much. And like more so now that he knows what he's been like. He doesn't know the whole backstory of All for One and all that. All he knows at this point is that his power passed from himself into Midoriya, and now he's counting on Deku to become the next All Might. So he doesn't have the whole story, but he has some of it.
Yes.
But even so, he's like, and like seeing him in his fight in Kamino, he's just like, this guy's even more amazing than I ever thought he was. So to have that guy come and tell him, you know, for what you did,
especially in the
hero.
state he's in, too. So I'm just like,
I think that had a lot to. I think that contributed a lot to Akurui's like mental well-being throughout the rest of the chapter that he's in. Because otherwise he probably would have been a little more like Kurai, like very subdued and probably a little more snarky. Although there's still plenty of snark to go around.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, because then we have packing, and the friends coming and helping.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that.
That was pretty
again
fun.
like that was a scene.
What are you doing? No.
It's like, stay out of my stuff. Again, that was a scene where like originally I didn't even think to put it in there. I was just gonna skim over it. And then I was like, no wait, I can have fun with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it needed something to lighten it up.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Otherwise, this
And
would have been a
so,
really depressing chapter.
Yeah, it was fun, and then we have, unfortunately his mom's in a bad place, it seems
Yeah. Like, how do I put this? Like, even the most well-adjusted individuals, you can never really tell how they're going to deal with a tragedy this big. Like, they don't know how they're going to deal with a tragedy this big.
Grief does some crazy things to people.
Yeah, like, like, obviously their mother is a very strong woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, been married to a police officer. Like, she knew that something like this could happen. Like, she's seen it happen with her brother-in-law. But to actually, like, have that reality come crashing down on you is just another matter. And, like, again, especially, but then you pile that on top of her youngest son's halfway to being a vegetable. Her other son was nearly killed, is violently crippled. You just throw all that stuff together, and she's just kind of shut down.
Yeah, she needs time to process. And
Yeah.
it sucks.
I mean,
'cause
before
she's
she
not
had her
really-
husband to help her process all this stuff, she's alone now.
Yep.
She doesn't have anyone.
Yep. So it's kind of disappointing for Kurai, but it's nice that he
But
has his...
he doesn't hold it against her.
No,
like-
I think he knows. He loves his mom, and he knows that she needs to figure things out, and
Yeah.
he needs to move forward.
Yeah.
And so
They each need to move forward in their own way.
So we have everybody going.
What do you think of the goodbye moment between Kurai and Akurori?
That was fun. It was good because I think he's worried about him, and he's like, I gotta stay here, and he gives him the album from his dad, which is sweet.
Yeah.
And they, I mean, I can't remember where this conversation happened, but I know at some point they say, we can always. Oh, Mina, I think.
Mina's the one. Yeah.
That they can always come.
I
see
want.
him.
Yeah, that I thought. Yeah, I don't know why I almost skipped over that, but that was important because the last time that we had Mina and Akurori interacting like directly on screen, they were kind of at each other's throats. Because this was like, if you guys remember, like the last time I had them interacting face to face on screen was
When they
on
were
Island.
climbing
Was
up.
on
Yeah, they were
Island.
climbing up that
And she
thing
was
and-
pissed at him for
yeah.
like she didn't think that he cared about his brother.
Yeah.
Like
remember.
I had them interact briefly like in Kurai's hospital room, but I didn't like actually go into what they were saying. So this is the first time we have an in-depth on-screen conversation, and I felt that it was important to have a more positive interaction between the two of them, given everything that's happened.
Yeah.
So I thought I did all right with
no,
that.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah.
They clearly, she clearly cares about him because he's Kurai's brother, and he cares about her because he knows that she's good for Kurai, and he's basically asking her to watch out for him, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So clearly he's kind of, I don't think he ever
Disliked
her. He just had to be a little brother about it.
He had to give her crap.
Yeah. But you truly see that he thinks that she's good for his brother, which is really awesome. So we have moving up toward the dorms. We have Aizawa
Giving his little pep talk. Team Ruby's like, is he always like this? Yeah. Oh dang, what are we in for? Had that moment where, again, this is kind of something I threw in last minute. The bit with so like Kurai's got like a lot of white hair on the side here now. And I was like, oh wait, someone should point that out. Of course, it's gonna be Yang who does it.
I thought it was too.
No, Yang kind of messes with his hair. She says I'd say it's a fresh look, but Smolderoki over there has it done. Sue is the one who says you guys look like you could be brothers.
Yeah.
And then because I just kind of wanted to Todoroki and Kurai, like they are friends, like that's been well established at this
They're
point.
just not super close.
But fighting together, like, they fought together pretty hardcore at Island, so like that kind of brought them closer together, I feel like. And Kurai asked Todoroki to burn his arm so that he could save his life, so there's a high level of trust between the two of them. So I feel like it was important. I felt like it was important for Todoroki because like Kurai kept reaching out to Todoroki and asking him for his help. And now I think this is Todoroki's kind of way of saying that he wants to draw closer to Kurai.
And we all love a Todoroki moment because when he on the rare occasion that he does speak, everyone wants to hear it. So,
This is true.
and yeah, so that was precious. He says he would be proud to be his brother.
Yeah.
My heart. So you gave me a lot of those moments in this chapter.
See, so they start moving in. That's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
They have the room
contest.
The room contest. Yep.
Just like in the anime, very fun.
Yeah. I only did Ruby's because I felt like if I did the other girls, I was gonna have to go through everybody's rooms like they did in the show. I'm like this chapter's turning out to be a really long one anyways.
Yeah.
I need to cut it off. I don't know exactly what Yang, Blake and Weiss's rooms looked like.
You guys can write that part.
You guys can write that part or reference their dorms at Beacon or what have you. But yeah, I had Ruby because I kind of wanted someone to commiserate with Midoriya over his nerd stuff.
And Ruby's precious, so
Yes.
great.
Yes. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to writing more of their interactions because I'm with you guys. Like, I don't ship them, but I'm with you guys a lot. Like, they deserve to hang. They need to hang out.
The buddiness.
The buddy, yeah,
yes.
the buddy ship. I'll take that.
There you go, buddy ship. I like it.
Let's see, and then, like throughout the day though, we're seeing that like Kurai's kind of still not quite right. Like, there's some stuff that's going on with him, and like
clearly hurting.
he's hurting, yeah.
He's trying to put on a brave face for everyone, but it's not really working.
And it's not. He can only keep it up for so long, and it all just
catches him at a bad moment because he's struggling with a simple task. But
I think one of because I went like an hour like trying to just do stuff with my left hand, like including eating and stuff. I think the thing I got most pissed about was I couldn't freaking eat my soup. Well, I was just trying to eat with my left hand. I was like, get on the freaking spoon! What's going on? I was so mad.
Oh, and if it's cake, it's worse.
Yeah.
I want it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, I decided that would be a good like boiling point for him. I thought it worked.
Yeah.
And
then after
something to take away before we get into the next part is like, if you know someone who's like mutilating themselves, don't do what these guys did. Go get someone. Go get someone who. Go get an adult. Go get someone who knows what to do with this.
At least in the United States, I don't know how this is in other places, but it is law that if you know that someone is in danger of harming themselves, you need to report it.
Yep, or else you're liable.
Yes, you know, and I mean, the smart thing to do is to prevent someone from endangering themselves.
So,
period.
Definitely don't do what these guys did.
This is an unwise thing. It's something that stupid teenagers do.
Yeah.
I say that as someone who was once a stupid teenager.
Yeah. There are cases where this kind of thing does work, but on the whole, you shouldn't do that.
That's why we have such a huge problem with self-harm and other things, which we probably should put
I'll put a disclaimer
at the beginning of this chapter, just in case anyone is sensitive to that.
Yeah, of course. I did the same thing when I did the same thing with the one where he gets his arm cut off for disturbing elements and all that.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So
so don't be like.
So don't do what happens next. And what does happen next is you got Deku, Ida, and Mina trying to figure out how do we help him. Granted, so some of this stuff, some of the reasoning that she has, I do take from personal experiences because I don't like hospitals. Hospitals which is hilarious because I have to go to them so often. But I've had bad experiences I have had bad experiences in a hospital where it's like I know that going to a hospital in certain situations is just going to stress me out more than it's worth, and I have to wait and like take a chill pill before I'm able to get myself over there. So I kind of drew from that experience and worked it into his response and their idea on how to handle the situation, because Mina and Ida know him better than Deku does, but at this point, Mina's gotten a lot closer to him. She knows that if they bring another teacher or do another psych evaluation on him, it's going to freak him out, or it's going to cause him even more stress. And what the three of them as a consensus reach is that they want him to be able to handle this stuff without leaning on someone else all the time.
Again, is unwise.
Which is very unwise.
But, they're wanting, and they're trying to watch out for their friend in the only way they know how.
Yes.
So that's those are obviously these are teenagers. They're not perfect individuals who make
that's
half
the story idea.
Wouldn't be
like,
interesting, right?
Stupid people do stupid things.
Yeah. So they have their little setup, and Mina gets in his room, helps him to come down from his escalation, which is rough. Oh my gosh. Because, I mean, when you have someone with that level of strength, too.
Yeah, like, physically, there's not really anything she can do to him.
Yeah. But, I mean, you can also cause yourself a lot of harm. Like, it's very hard to cause yourself harm with a normal level of strength. And you can't do it under a certain level of psychological duress.
Yeah.
And here, he's
but Kurai's strong enough to shoulder check a freaking bridge. And send it flying.
Yeah, so of course, if he's
like got a deadlock on himself,
he's gonna hurt himself.
Yeah,
which is not good. Yeah, and I just feel like reiterating that if you or anyone you know has struggles with self-harm, please seek help, because it's not something you should deal with alone, and it's something that
you shouldn't handle. You shouldn't deal with it yourself either.
No,
you need medical
professionals. Yes.
You need professionals to handle it.
It's wonderful that we have wonderful medical professionals, and
I wouldn't be here without it.
Yes, same here. I think we've both of us have been there in the past. So do not do what these kids are doing.
Yep. But for intents and purposes of the story, so far, seems like things are going to work out.
Yes.
He calms down. He goes to bed. He just like, is he okay?
Yep. I loved that moment where she comes out and he just like, so
she's
like, what? Because they're still there. They're worried about their friend. They want to know. So of course he's still out there.
I honestly almost forgot that I left Deku out on the balcony.
I know, and
I was like,
would be sitting there like ready.
Like he'd be like sitting on the railing, like ready to jump in the room. I feel like.
Yeah.
And I forgot that he was out there. Like
that's me.
I went and reread the last scene a couple times because I was like, I'm missing something. Oh crap, Deku!
I know. I should have just left him there all night.
He doesn't deserve that.
Poor Deku. Oh man.
That's okay.
But yeah, so happy little warm fuzzy ending. Kind of. It's pretty bittersweet.
I mean, I feel like the scales were mostly balanced to this chapter.
Yeah, because we had all that fluff in the middle, and so it'll be interesting to see how everything progresses now with all of the little changes that have happened in the crew.
And for lack of a better term, as a reward for you guys, like for the last few chapters, like the last 10 chapters have been hitting super hard.
Yeah.
The next chapter is just going to be a fun one. There's going to be, it's going to be fun, it's going to be fluffy, you're not going to have to worry about, world-ending catastrophes or if some dude's going to rip his arm off. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No,
does it relate to the date night?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Well, yeah, because Kurai told me he wants to go out on a date for Sunday, so yeah. Next chapter you'll get to see them go on an actual date, actually.
Actual date.
Yeah. I know how to English very good. No, we've only technically seen them go on one date
true.
And it was a not date. Like they've dated, they've gone on dates in between chapters and all that, and then they were supposed to go to the party together at Island, but we all know how that turned out. But yes, next chapter they'll get to go on a date. It's gonna be fun. You guys can take a breath of fresh air, just chill out for a few minutes, and then. For some reason, I can't remember what happens after that right now.
That's all right.
So I'll just leave you guys on the note.
You have it somewhere.
Yeah, I have it. I've got stuff written down. I'll figure it out again. But for now, you guys can just take it easy on the next couple of weeks. I promise this is the last of the super crazy stuff for a little bit.
Some warm fuzzy ferret therapy.
Yes,
next
warm fuzzy therapies next chapter.
Go watch Psyche K or something to get into a better mood.
Please do.
Or
Please do.
What's another one? What's another good happy one?
Another good happy. I don't know too many good. I don't know of any good just purely comedy animes.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Rock Lee's spin-off series.
There we go. That's funny. That's happy. That's happy feels. There we go.
All right.
All right.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to the story. Thank you for leaving your comments and reviews. And I hope you guys have a plus ultra time until we see you again. Bye-bye. Oh, it's old.